My name is Adam Luria and I'm a documentary producer and director. I studied languages at school and at university. I studied French at school and did a year of Spanish as well, and took French all the way from year 7 through to A-level. And then when I left school, I came to UCL actually and was planning to study Czech, but realised that it wasn't quite for me. So I went back to something that I knew, which was French, and I went to Warwick, and at Warwick I studied French and Italian. I think the reason that I decided to continue my studies with languages beyond GCSE into A-level and then at university was because of one French teacher who actually was probably the best, most inspiring teacher that I had at school. And she made learning the language interesting, fun, exciting, and also convinced me that it was a worthwhile exercise to speak another language, to be able to speak with people who come from different countries. My grandmother was French and my grandfather was Czech, and I think I always was aware that languages and speaking other languages was an important thing to be able to do. I didn't know when I went to university that I'd end up making documentaries and making films. I actually spent a year out working at BAFTA, first of all behind the bar there and then in the projection room. And I met a lot of very interesting people and had this grand ambition that one day I might direct feature films. And then I went to university, and when I studied French and Italian at university, film and literature was very much a part of that, but never with the intention that I would end up working in films. I got into making television and then documentaries in a very roundabout way. First of all, I started as a receptionist and then got a job as a runner, then a researcher and an assistant producer, and worked my way up that way. But that was quite, there was never a plan for me to do that. But what I knew from the beginning when I went to university was that I was interested in languages. I enjoyed languages. I wouldn't say I find languages easy to pick up, but I enjoy picking up words in new languages. And I knew that learning languages would keep my options open. So I think one of the things that a lot of young people struggle with, because I definitely did, is having to specialise very early on. And being able to study languages and then that opening up, being able to watch films in different languages, being able to study literature, that meant that I never felt like options were closed to me. I use my language skills a lot in my career. I don't think I ever thought that I would, but it just so happens that over the last 10 years or so, I have made lots of programs in Italy, not so many in France. But I tend to use Italian a lot for work, whether it's speaking to people while I'm here in London, having to speak to people for research or to set up filming trips, or whether it's in Italy on location, having to direct people in Italian or speak to people to make sure that things get done. Italian, for some reason, is the language that gets used all the time. Learning a different language opens up a whole new world to you. It means that you get to see other people's perspectives and understand them. I think we can often be closed off to the way that other people see the world. And learning a language allows you to empathise with other people more than if you were trying to understand them in your own native language. That's absolutely essential when I'm making television and making documentaries, not to just consider one point of view, but to be balanced and fair and to try to put myself in other people's shoes. I think if you know anything of another language, it's useful. I think if you find yourself in a different country and you can pick up even just a few words to be able to order food, to get a coffee, to ask directions, that is useful. Of course, being able to be fluent in a language opens up a whole new world. It means that you can live somewhere else. It means that you can work in that place. It means that you can make new friendships, and it, opens up a whole world of literature to you. But even just being able to get by with a few words here and there when you're somewhere else, I think is a tremendously useful skill to have. as part of my degree, I spent a year in Italy and I spent 6 weeks in France as well. And I think that living abroad for that year is probably one of the most exciting things that I've ever done. It's probably one of the experiences that I remember more than any other, certainly from my adult life. But I think it's one of the things that's made me the person that I am today. It forced me to grow up quite quickly. I hadn't spent a huge amount of time away from home. I think I was a bit of a homebody, and living abroad definitely helped to strengthen my resolve. It helped me to stand on my own 2 feet, and it was just a brilliant experience in making new friends, meeting new people, seeing other parts of the world, and just living in a way that I hadn't lived before, having totally new experiences and seeing that there's more out there than what you know and what you're used to. I'd always encourage people to try to continue their studies learning another language. It might be that if you're struggling, you haven't necessarily found the right language, but I think there's always something out there that you can find that excites you, that ties in with other interests that you have. And I think that learning a language is really one of the most important and exciting things that you can do. I think one of my favourite Italian words is menefreghista, which is it's a person who doesn't care about anything. It's just a word that I love the sound of it, it always evokes sort of an image of someone who's a bit nonchalant and apathetic, and for some reason that appeals to me.